Welcome to No Boxes, Just Verses, the podcast where we go beyond the bios, beyond the resumes, beyond the titles, and we bring you some of today's most inspiring leaders, all through the music that has shaped their journey. 5 lessons, 5 songs, one unforgettable leadership playlist.
No boxes, just verses. We're not playing around. No boxes, just verses. Listen to the sound. No boxes, just verses. Our stories out loud. No boxes, just verses. Watch wisdom astound. The stories of how we found our way. Stories of how we learned to pray. Our stories out loud. Our wisdom, our pearls, everyone say wow, 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 wow. Ooh, no boxes, just verses. Feel it move.
And today, I am so excited to be joined by the Kelly Frye. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This has been so much fun getting to know more about your background. We met at a really amazing event in Las Vegas where we were actually advocating for arts and arts education and arts funding. And we really kind of vibed over that. And I was kind of trying to figure out why I was in the room because I'm not an actress or like a big time director or anything. But everybody was so nice and so humble. And I didn't know who was you looked familiar. I'm sure you get that a lot. You did definitely look familiar to me, but I wasn't going to be like, so what shows are you on? I wasn't going to be all corny like that. But you were just so gracious. And then I got to know a little bit more about you. And I was like, can we stay in touch? In a non-creepy way, obviously.
I love creepy ways too. That's okay.
And as I got to know more about your story, I knew I had to have you on the podcast. So look, let me tee it up for our listeners to set the stage, and then let's get into your journey. Kelly Frye is an actress, producer, and emerging director known for her work in Disney's Secrets of Sulphur Springs, along with her recurring roles on All Rise, Criminal Minds, LA's Finest, The Flash, Teachers, and NCIS LA. Her film credits include 12 Mighty Orphans and Robert Rodriguez's Hypnotic. Kelly made her directorial debut with the mockumentary comedy 4 Influencers in a Funeral after she shadowed the directors on The Fosters and Secrets of Sulphur Springs. And that's the best way a lot of times to get your first start is to really just be like an apprentice. Kelly is originally from Houston. She graduated from Loyola Marymount University in just 3 years. She's super smart to pursue her career in acting. And she later trained at the Second City with Leslie Kahn. She's curious and creative by nature. Kelly follows inspiration wherever it leads. When the film industry went on strike for 8 months, she poured her energy into co-chairing and fundraising for the Trail Conservancy, helping her husband grow his art advisory and sister companies, Campbell Art Collective, which is, I can't wait to learn about this, grown-up field trips that are ongoing at least once a month in Austin and Houston. And hopefully you'll come up to the Bay maybe one time with one of these grown-up field trips. I'd love to do that. In addition to that, you guys have Bite, an immersive artist-led dinner series, and you're developing your own line of artist collaborative handbags. I cannot wait to get into the handbags. I love me a purse. If that isn't enough, Kelly is also a licensed realtor who genuinely loves helping her friends find homes and creative spaces. So if you're listening and you're in Austin, please look her up for that too. Whether she's pulling together Get Ready With Me events, and for those of you a little bit younger, that is GRWM, hashtag GRWM events, which is just basically where you show, like you're an influencer, you show what you're about to wear for the next events. I love that. You're doing that, or you're gathering people for meaningful, art-driven experiences. Kelly is always creating, always hustling. I love it. Kelly, you live in Austin with your husband, Nick Campbell, who is an art advisor, and your beautiful little dog, Monty. And you continue to tell stories on and off the screen. Kelly, welcome to No Boxes, Just Verses.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I'm loving we both have a little kind of holiday theme. So listeners, we definitely are taping this in the holidays. We love it. So let's start with a young Kelly. I always like to start with people's origin story. The song that you pick, and I love this artist, is Changes by David Bowie. Look, you grew up in Texas, and as the song suggests, you had a lot of changes in your early childhood. So take us through why that song and what was a young Kelly doing? And was she aspiring to be an actress?
There were a lot of changes in my childhood. There was also a lot of consistency. So it wasn't constantly just changes. But one of the main consistent things from my childhood was great storytelling in my household. My mother is one of the best storytellers that I know, and that has created a lot of creativity in all of us children. There are 5 of us in total. I have 4 brothers. And my oldest brother became a playwright and a theater director, and he has a theater company that he started in Houston 30 years ago now. I think it just had its 30-year anniversary. My mother says that my oldest brother came out of the womb directing, and I came out of the womb entertaining, whether that was trying to get my family to laugh or directing everybody to sit down for a tea party. Whatever it was, in a household filled with my 3 older brothers, who my next brother from me is 10 years older. So to have kind of the big boys in the house and then me, I was just a ham. I wanted to be around them and entertain them and make them laugh. And I don't think I always knew I wanted to be an actor, but I knew that I really liked connecting with people and eliciting a response. And my favorite response to elicit is a laugh. If I can get a laugh out of somebody, then I feel like, okay, my job is done for the day. In terms of all the changes, which I think and why I chose this song, my parents divorced when I was 5. And then we moved from a certain kind of life in the city near Rice University out to the suburbs in Clear Lake. So that was at 5 years old when the big change of divorce happened, and my mom was a single mom for years. And real estate is what gave her the ability to be present, but also keep a roof over our heads. And when I was 10 years old, we ended up moving to Clear Lake to be closer to my father, and it was just more manageable for my mom. And so those are 2 pretty big ages for those sort of changes.
Yeah.
And I think that some people might look at more details around those changes, but I think some people might look at my childhood and think, oh, poor her. But I really believe that the shifting sands that occurred at such a young age instilled in me a deep spiritual connection with my own self and with whatever is happening in the world, trusting that, yeah, okay, this might be a difficult chapter, but the next chapter, it's just laying the groundwork for the next chapter, which is going to be better. I had to rely on myself a lot. And I was never part of a group in school. I was what you would call a floater. I don't know if that was a terminology in other schools around the world or around the US, but I know we're in adolescence, but I'm jumping to high school. I just remember at high school, and I went to a huge high school. I just went to one with 4,000 kids, and my graduating class had 1,000. And so you would see like the cheerleader table and the football table and the nerdy table. And it was like classic high school out of a movie. I was not in any one group. I had a good friend in several groups. And so I floated from table to table. And that, in a way, I think if you dissect a lot of actors' young lives, that tends to be a recurring theme, that you are a chameleon in a way.
As we talk later about what you wind up doing in your career, you were able to find a space in all these different environments and somehow relate to like different types of people that don't necessarily go to work, and especially in high school where it's just as brutal. Right? It's so brutal. You were able to do that. But it's so interesting. A couple of things that you brought up. A, just seeing your mom model for you, like she had to get out there and hustle. And you definitely have that in you, and especially like later on in your life. That was role modeled for you very early on. But at the same time, it seems like your parents were allowing you to explore your creativity at a young age. Like you had supporters in your parents, because everybody doesn't have that as their beginnings. Even with your changes, you still had that type of support.
Yes. And I think that's worth more than a gazillion-dollar trust fund because that cannot be taken away ever.
Yeah.
My mom says that she raised 5 only children. All all 5 of us. She is an incredible parent and probably should have written a parenting book. But she was very good at seeing what each of us were interested in naturally and then figuring out how to support that instead of trying to fit us into, okay, we're a tennis family, so you're going to play tennis, or we're a boating family, so you're going to be a boater. No, it was very much like one of my older brothers was really into photography for a little bit, got him into some photography program as an after school program. And of course, my older brother was writing plays and directing them from a very young age. And she figured out how to get him into a theater program from a young age. And as I said, she says that I came out of the womb performing. And so I was in ballet and gymnastics, and then I was figure skating. And I would do that from 5 a.m. until school, and then from school until dinner time. And even when my mom was a single mom and struggling, she figured it out. She got me to the rink and she figured out how to pay for the lessons. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm into it for 2 years and then I wanted to quit and she kept me in it. No, my mom is very good at listening to her children in terms of, okay, this is what it is for now. And maybe in 3 years, this is not where this child's interest lies. So how are we going to pivot and make sure that they're filling their lives with something they really want to do?
That's super important because it allowed you to really tap into your creative side. But at the same time, you are also academic. And the one question I did have, did you do theater in high school?
So I say that's where I got bit by the bug. When I was very young, my mom had me with a modeling agent, Neil Hamill, in Houston. So I did a couple of modeling jobs and runway shows as a little girl. And then in high school, I actually got my SAG card doing a Titleist commercial with Sergio Garcia when it was very hard to get a SAG card back then. Big deal. And I was 16 years old. But the real moment that I was like, oh, was I was in my senior musical, which was a comedy. It was Footloose. And I was the comedic relief in Footloose. I played Rusty, Sarah Jessica Parker's role in the film. And at this giant high school that I went to, I remember being on stage and getting a laugh. And I was like, oh, what is that? That felt so good. And I commanded the stage. And I sort of knew that I could do that, but I didn't know that I could do that. And in a school where you could really be invisible, to then be on stage and have hundreds of people in the audience and then walking the halls the next week and people coming up and being like, oh my God, you're funny. Yeah, I am funny. Thanks. That was a real moment of being seen, but also like, oh, I think there's maybe a certain presence I give off or the way that I look or my own energy that makes people think I'm one way. But in reality, I'm like a big goober inside. And that was the moment where being on stage in this role allowed me to show that to my peers. So that was the only theater I did in high school. I was a golfer. I played tennis and golf. I know, a little nerdy.
Well, you were academic. I prefaced it because I know your story in that way. You were very academic, but I didn't know you played golf.
Yes. Because of how my mom brought us up, I always felt like I could try anything. I wasn't embarrassed. I was okay with being a beginner at things. And so I remember being in my junior year of high school, and it was like the first week, and I heard over the announcement, girls golf tryouts in the ISS room after school. And I had played tennis my freshman and sophomore year at a pretty high level, and I just thought, oh, I've never really played golf. That might be fun. And so I went to this, Janice Balsamo is the coach. I call her my other mother. I went to the ISS room and she gave us all a written test. And there were like 5 questions and it said, what's a birdie? What's a bogey? What's a whatever? And I didn't know any of these terms. And so on birdie, I said, I don't know when you hit a bird with the ball. And then I wrote a little note at the end and I said, I might not know much about golf, but I'm a very quick learner and I'm a great teammate. And so Janice took a chance on me. And my very first tournament, I shot a 138, which is a very bad score.
Right.
And at my last tournament, which was about a year and a half later, I was co-captain of the golf team and I shot an 87 at state.
Oh my gosh. This is why I've been trying to get my kids to get into golf, the ones that are like 18 and 22. It's why doing it young is because doing it at a mature age, we won't say my age, but at a mature age, it's been such a struggle. I've been taking these lessons, Kelly, and it's just been really hard. And I'm like, why didn't I pick this up? If I could have picked it up at 18, I would have. I had that to do over again. I would.
Yeah, it's a great life skill. It's a great life skill to have. And it's a really fun thing to travel with your partner and do, or to travel with a group of friends and do. You get to go to beautiful places all over the world. And it's 4-ish hours of your life where you're not on your phone. You're just chatting. There's a little zen-ness to golf. But I did my 10,000 hours. In that year and a half, I did or maybe it was 6,000 hours. I don't know. I'd have to count it all. But I was playing every single day after school with the coach and with my team. And then we were required to play at least 27 holes every weekend.
Yeah.
So I was...
Yeah, you're putting in the time. Like everything in life, if you put in the time, and this is a recurring theme in your story that we'll get to with several other things that you wind up doing, you actually put in the time. When you decide to do something, you put in a lot of time, and it is what makes you successful. Is that you're willing to start at the ground floor, at the bottom. You're not, you're not too proud or too, to be like, oh, I need to be here. You will do any job, if you will, to get good at that thing. So we'll get into it because there's some other examples of that as well. Okay, we're kind of done with high school. You decide to go to college. You don't decide to just say, I'm going to go to LA and shoot my shot. Like you didn't necessarily do it that way because you go to college. You go to Loyola Marymount. Now, granted, it is closer to going to LA to shoot your shot. But it's called college. You got to go to classes. You got to take tests. And you also, overachiever, graduate in 3 years, not 4. And certainly not the 5-6 year plan that a lot of people have as well. The song that you pick is High Hopes by Panic at the Disco. So take us through those early LA days that are college years, but I guess also starting your kind of career as well.
To back up just a little bit, I believe that before we come into this lifetime, we decide certain things are going to happen in this life. Certain people are going to come into our lives, certain challenges are going to happen, certain wins are going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. And I really wanted to go to Princeton. I had great grades. I had really high SAT scores. I'm a type A, only daughter, overachiever. But I went to school with all NASA scientist children. That's where I went to high school. And so I was like top of my class, but not top of my class. And so I remember calling the golf coach at Princeton University and saying, listen, I need an edge in. And I'm on the golf team here. I might not be a scratch golfer, but I'm a great teammate. Would you put a good word in? Here are my grades. Here are my SATs. And he applauded me for having the gumption to pick up the phone and call him. But he also said that he had to save those asks for scratch golfers. Totally understandable. So back to applying to college, I got a very large scholarship to SMU in Dallas. And my mom begged me to go there. If she could have it her way, all 5 of us children would be living under her roof still. And the other school that I got a very good offer from was Loyola Marymount University. And I didn't really know much about LMU, although what I knew was it was a small liberal arts school in LA. And the business school, which is where I applied, was a highly rated program, Hilton School of Business. And so I knew I didn't want to stay in Texas, although I love Texas and now I'm back. I wanted to spread my wings and try something new and different. And my father, who was a New Yorker, forbid me from applying to schools in New York. So good thing he never lived in LA because it's just as bad, if not worse. And so I went to visit LMU and it was I remember going to visit, and it's on these bluffs overlooking Marina del Rey and Playa del Rey. And as a visitor, you see the students, like, there are these girls on cute little, like, beach cruisers biking from one side of the campus to the other, and they're tan. I would never tan, but they're tan, and they're like these beachy people just like living their best life. They're not slogging through the snow in Michigan or at Texas Tech like get to class. They are sun-kissed and know how to do it.
Right.
I ended up going to LMU. I think this is part of the thing that, like, before I came into this life, I knew I was going to be in LA, and LMU got me to LA.
Okay.
I was not a theater program major. I double majored in international business and business law with a minor in Asian Pacific studies. When I was in school, China was opening up globally. And so I always thought, I'm going to do something in the, both my father and stepfather were very successful in real estate ventures and had their own businesses. And so I just thought, okay, I know I love to travel, international business, and I know that I like things that take a lot of money. And seeing the Asian market opening up more, I thought that's what I would figure out somewhere in there that I would live in. And so I tried to take Mandarin. It's very hard. So I ended up taking Japanese. And Janice Balsamo was my other mom in high school. Sensei Kinjo was my other mother in college. She was my Japanese teacher, and I just adored this woman. And between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, my mom and stepdad, she remarried at this point, my mom and stepdad had bought a place in Hawaii, and they were redoing the house in Hawaii. And I had actually already gotten into a program to do a month in Tokyo and a month in Paris. And one of my regrets in life is not doing that summer. But instead, my mom begged me to stay in Hawaii with them for the summer. Boo-hoo. But that was the summer that changed everything for me. Freshman year of college, I had gotten into some sort of depression. I was still overachieving and doing, and you wouldn't know that anything was wrong from the outside, but something here was not great. And that summer in Hawaii, Hawaii's healing. There's something in the air and the water there. And it released whatever was making me sad. And I thought in that moment, okay, I need to do the thing that made me feel the most alive, which at that point was my senior musical in high school and making people laugh on stage. And if I don't try my hand at it now, I don't think I'll ever do it. And so I said to my mom and stepdad, because of AP classes, because of summer school, and because I was taking 21 credits a semester, I was technically in my second semester as a sophomore. And so I was already lined up if I wanted to graduate early. And I took summer school at University of Hawaii. I then loaded up my proper sophomore year of college, and my parents were like, great, go for it. I don't even think they would have put pressure on me to finish college, but I'd already done so much. It was like, that would be silly to quit. Long-winded story to say, I graduated in 3 years with that degree, and I started shooting my first film during my last year of college. I didn't know a soul in the business, and I treated it like any type A business student would. I said to everybody in my sorority, everybody on my floor in my dorm, if you know anybody in the industry, will you make an introduction? I'll take them to coffee. I'll take them to lunch. I just want to ask them questions. And I did. I'm a list person. I still have a paper calendar that I keep that has all my goals, and and that's the only way that I can keep track and also focus on, okay, this is where you were last week, but look, you're already this much further with that goal. Interviewing all those people like I did, the kind of running theme was, you're 20 now, you should have started when you were 10. And I was like, okay, I didn't. So what are you going to do? And I think the industry, I have nothing against Nepo babies. I think good for you. Get a leg up. Because when you don't have, you are navigating waters that are filled with a lot of junk.
Yeah.
There's so many people who have a hand in the industry that aren't really doing much of anything. And so it took me years, but because of that business student type A brain, I just kept going, okay, that coach that I'm studying with is not the right person. Oh, this is not the right group of actors. They're not taking it seriously for my friendship group, et cetera, et cetera. So I just kept the high hopes. And that song from Panic at the Disco is such an important song because I would be in my car feeling really alone and like, who the hell do you think you are, Kelly? And what do you think you're doing? And I'd be driving from LMU an hour and 15 minutes because of traffic into West Hollywood or the Valley to go to a bad commercial audition. It wasn't even like I was immediately auditioning for the lead in a big show. It was like, okay, you gotta start where you can. And the first place I could start was with a modeling agent. Okay, well, a modeling agent opened the door to commercial work, and a commercial work opened the door to a theatrical agent who could help me get TV and film auditions. And I just kept going.
You kept doing the 10,000 hours we talked about when you actually joined the team in high school and had never played golf before. And you applied that to pretty much everything. And that's what happens here. You just keep putting in the time, doing it while you're going full time in college. But you
Yes.
also are, I know you're a lifelong learner and you like to keep busy. And so probably for you, that just felt normal and it made you feel alive. And it just made you
Yes.
happy to be that busy all the time.
Yes. And I think that women, unfortunately, when you get to that age of 21, 22, 23, it's harder to find female mentors in the industry that I went into. I think it's different if you become a lawyer, which was what I was planning on doing, or if you go into business, it's a little different. Like maybe you can find somebody who's 10 years ahead of you to mentor you. But in my industry, it was very lonely. You're kind of hoping you're making the right steps, but there's no set path. Or if there is, nobody still has told me about it. But thankfully I had my mom and my stepdad and my father back in Texas. All of them were very supportive, and I still have notes when I was down and my dad in Texas would send me like a 1-800-Flowers bouquet and the card would say, "Keep going, your deal's around the corner."
Yeah.
It's such a small gesture, but that support, again, is worth more than a gazillion-dollar trust fund. It just spiritually keeps you going.
I think in every industry, no one makes it to the C-suite alone. Everybody needs a supporter or supporters. Normally it's plural. And you can find your supporters in all kinds of places. Some of them can be, like you said, in your profession. Some of them can be your family. Some of them can be a friend. It could be literally a stranger you meet at the CVS who sees that you're struggling, because this actually really happened to me, and just prayed with me, some random lady. And I felt the support. But we all need these supporters to be successful. And you keep it going. What I want to understand is, after you graduate from Loyola, what is it that makes you decide you're going to still keep grinding? And I want to know about like your first big break. But what is it that keeps you grinding? Because you're right, the conventional path says that you should be sitting somewhere in Texas studying for the GMATs or the LSATs or something like that, right? Because you got the grades, you've got the background, and you've got plenty of friends that you met at Loyola that were your sorority sisters, et cetera, who are now entering grad school. What was it that said you were not going to go that path? And then how did you get your first big break to even stay in LA like that?
Back to that summer in Hawaii when I approached my mom and I said, "This is what I think I want to do. And I've calculated my hours. I think I can graduate in 3 years." I just felt like if I didn't jump off the mountain then to see if the parachute would open, I don't think I would ever do it. I think that the traditional path, and having listened to a lot of other guests that you've had on this podcast, you can hear it in their stories. The traditional path is exciting also, but it's comfortable. And once you start getting comfortable, how do you then pull back to get uncomfortable and bet on something that is not a guarantee? So I was a pretty, I feel like, immature 21-year-old in some ways, but then I was also an extremely old soul in other ways. And I knew that if I did not try then, that I never would. And I had so much joy being on set. I had so much joy. There are actors that they just go back to their trailer and they sit in their trailer and they like are on their phones or I don't know, reading something. When I'm on set, I'm on set. I hang out in Video Village if I can. I just want to watch it all because it is magic. Every television show employs something like 300 people. It is a mini company, every television show. And you're watching what is happening around you with the gaffers and the hair and makeup team and the director and the writers. And writers might be over here in the corner rewriting something that just didn't work in the moment. And they've been working on that particular script for weeks in the writer's room, but you don't know it until you're on your feet and seeing it in the world. And so the little taste that I had acting and on set, even if it was just that Titleist commercial, it blew me away. It just was like, this is so cool. This is such an interesting thing. And luckily, I have something that people want. I don't know if I would have kept going if I didn't keep getting hired. The industry is always like this. And there were some moments where I was in the desert by myself. But every time that I was this close to quitting, something would happen. Even if it was a little job, but I booked something. So I just kept going.
You keep going, and this next phase of your life, the song that you pick is Hooked by Blues Traveler. So take us through those years and what shows are you booking? Because you start booking some really well-known shows.
This third lesson is learn the rules so you can break them. And I knew that as an athlete. I knew that as a student, but I did not particularly know that as a artistic performer until I did. And Second City is one of the places that I studied for years, and I loved doing sketch comedy, and I loved writing sketch comedy, but television, which is mainly where I work, is a visual medium, and I think you've got to be realistic with yourself on what your visual is being hired for. And while I am a comedic goober inside, the exterior version of me does not get hired as much in comedy. I'm hired more in the dramatic world, although I love comedy. Every now and then I get a shot at it. And so Second City was great. It gave me a lot of tools. But then Leslie Kahn, who's an incredible teacher in Los Angeles, really gave me the tools that I needed. I studied a ton of different places, but those two are the places that I think really gave me my sea legs in the industry. And with Leslie's, her technique is all about thoughts and your character thoughts and really script analysis, which I had never truly been taken through with any other teachers. And of course, I never went to theater school, which I always felt insecure about. But in script analysis and in Leslie's teachings, when I first became a professional actor, I thought, oh, I've got to feel it. I've got to really be in the moment. Like, which that you should, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is knowing how you add to the story, what your role is in this moment. And the technical side gives you the scaffolding of the scene and of your acting so that when those organic emotional moments do come up, they're coming up in a way that's appropriate, that adds to the scene, that doesn't take away in any way. And so I think in anything, you got to learn the rules so that you can break them. And so once you learn those, then you can figure out, okay, I know how to do this. Now let me add some jazz hands. Let me add something that might be really fun and playful that does add to the scene. But if I was a beginner actor, I couldn't pull that off. You got to know how to play to play.
Just so many, I think, skills there that translate into anything that somebody does, whether it's corporate or creative. It's A, you got to know the rules. B, the other thing you talked about is, here's the thing, when people see how successful you are on TV and what you've been on, they just think it happened. You spent years going to this program and that program. Mind you, I went with an undergraduate business degree. Like, you could also do a million other things, but each time you're like, no, I have to learn my craft. And so if that means that I have to start over and do this and start over and do that, I'm going to put in the time and hours because I want to be excellent at it. It's very rare that somebody just wakes up and is like good at acting. I think that is like so unicorny. That's not how it works. But I think the average like Joe doesn't understand how much work you put into this craft to just get your first break. And what is that break?
I had a lot of small breaks, and then I got this role. It's still one of my favorite roles I've ever played. The character was named Cindy Beck, and she was the sassy assistant to Greg Kinnear's character in a TV show called Rake. And Rake was a remake of an Australian show, and this was on Fox, and it was a dramedy. So it was drama with a touch of comedy, and it was smart. It was smart, and it was funny, and it was sardonic, and it was just like, that is my sweet spot. Like, I love that kind of writing. I love that kind of television. I love that kind of character to play. She was dressed beautifully. She looked great, and she was sassy. And those are fun characters. And I got to play opposite Greg Kinnear, he is just a lovely actor and fun to watch and fun to play with. And I made some really great friends from that show. Unfortunately, it was a touch before its time because Greg Kinnear is a movie star and he was doing TV when movie stars were not doing TV. That is the norm now, but it was not when this show came out. It was probably 2 years ahead of its time. I remember Richard Burton's daughter, Kate Burton, who's also a brilliant actress, was guest starring on one of the episodes, and I was a recurring character in the first season. I was supposed to, I think, just do one, and then they kept calling me back. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something right. There was an episode that she was guesting on, and we were chatting away, and then I went to do a scene, and she watched it. And I came back to holding for the actors where we hang out, and she was like, they're going to make you a series regular. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, you're really funny. And they're going to make you a series regular next season. And I was like, oh, okay, Richard Burton's daughter, thank you. And I think this is good for anybody, not just actors, but I haven't done it in years because I think I've become confident enough, but definitely in my 20s, I had a running list of all of my wins. So if I tested for a character on Playboy Club, which I did, Playboy Club was a great NBC show, and the character was also very sassy and fun, and I loved her. So I'd write, tested for that show. It was between me and 2 other girls. I didn't get it, but that's still a win. I'm in the room. Richard Burton's daughter, Kate Burton, said I'm going to be a series regular. I would just write down these wins that I had because when I would be in the desert by myself, crying and thinking, what, I've just thrown my life away. What have I done with myself when friend number 3 is getting married and friend number 4 is off with some big promotion. And here I am living at my parents' house acting and not really made it. I would go to that list and I would read through it and I go, okay, you're moving. You just can't see it because you're in the forest, but you're halfway through now. You just got to keep it moving.
I say a lot of times, even in my own journey, what looks like you've gone like 2-3 steps backwards to a lot of people and to your peers actually catapults you 5 steps forward. Had you not made that move, you would not have gotten so far ahead.
Yeah, I agree. But it's hard to see that. Yeah, to have that 10,000 foot view.
But I'm hoping somebody listening to this right now is going through that. And I'm hoping that between the 2 of us, they can get some inspiration to keep going.
I do it with my husband too. Like now, I know we'll get to him later, but like in him starting over his life from moving from England to America and essentially restarting a 13-year-old business, you can't see the forest through the trees. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to start writing down some wins that have happened. And I just write them down. And then we go through that list and he's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I have done a lot, or I have had some wins. I'm like, yeah, but you can't see it unless you write it down.
I love that. And that's a good little lesson in this day of AI and everything else. Just an old school, like little journal or something you have by your nightstand where you just journal to yourself. You give yourself a love note to look back on. I love that lesson. I'm going to take that up. It's a good one. So things take off for you. From Rise, you do shows like Criminal Minds. I have to confess, I watch a lot of Criminal Minds on repeat. I've seen you in Criminal Minds. I love Criminal Minds. LA's Finest. we'll get to the flash because that happens a little bit later for you. But I'd love to understand that story. But before we get to that, I want to go into, I like to say life be lifing. It just, things can be so good and then life does some things to you. And the song you pick is Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine.
Yes.
And you go through some life stuff.
My real father passed away when I was 29, and I was his caretaker. He didn't have anyone else. So I was in the middle of shooting Rake, which was such a high in my career. I was flying back to Houston to look after my father who had throat cancer. And that was a Saturn return, as they say. Grown up, I had to grow up in that moment and really cherish what I had and the time that I had left with my father. And about, I think, less than a year after my father passed, I met my ex-husband. And probably shouldn't get married right after a parent passes away, but life happens. And I do, back to what I said before, I think when you come into this world, you have certain agreements with people to come into your life or situations to come into your life, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I had an agreement with my now ex-husband, and I had to learn a lot in that marriage. And not everybody has the same heart as you. And so, like any girl out there dreaming of being married, and I've always wanted to be married, I had a list of what I wanted in a husband. And it was on my phone, my notes phone. It said husband, and then it had all these qualities. And the one quality that wasn't on there, which I guess I just thought was a given, but it did not say kind.
Wow.
And kindness is very important in my family, and kindness is something that is a quality that runs deep in my family that I was raised in. And I think you just think that other people are going to have that as well as a given. And my ex-husband, though extremely smart and great on paper in a lot of ways, was not the kindest person. And the analogy that I always use is that I was given a canoe in this river of life. And my canoe wasn't the shiniest canoe in the world. It wasn't the latest model canoe, but it was a good canoe. I learned how to navigate that canoe well. And I was floating on the river of life, figuring out how I was going to do life. And I was doing all right with what I was given. And all these nice, really nice canoes were coming by with cute guys in them saying, "You want to jump in my canoe?" And I'd be like, "No, thanks." And then all of a sudden, this guy came along. And I was like, "Sure, jump in my canoe." And he jumped in my canoe and almost immediately started poking holes in the bottom of the canoe. I would like find whatever catastrophe he created. And I'd be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh," and I would immediately go into triage mode to keep us from drowning. My energy would go from like figuring out how to do life to, "Oh my God, I got to fix this thing." And when I was fixing one, he would poke a hole somewhere else. And I just realized at one point in my life, actually the biggest show that I've booked, in that moment, I realized I'm either going to lose myself completely in this marriage with this person, or I've got to get the hell out of this boat, even if I've got to swim the rest of the river of life. It's better than being in this sinking canoe with this person who does not want the best for me. That was really hard. I was 34 when I left my ex-husband, and I want children. And I didn't know if that was going to ever be in the cards for me, leaving something that's a sure deal at that age. But I just thought I'm better alone by myself than being with somebody who is dragging me down.
Yeah, there's a saying, I can do bad all by myself.
Yeah, that was a hard couple of years. We were married in total 3 years. I'm not a fighter. I know I was pre-law and I played lawyers on TV, but I never became a lawyer. And my ex-husband was a former lawyer, and he knew how to fight. He knew how to fight, and he just knew how to sting you. And so I had to learn. I had to learn how to fight in that marriage, which I did. And then I was like, who am I? This is not who I am. I'm somebody who is not head in the clouds, but I say hi to my neighbors in LA. I'm still friends with the people who worked at Earth Bar where I got my smoothie every morning. Like I'm friendly and I'm a happy person. So I was in this marriage that was taking that away. It's taking all of my light away. And so when I tested for Secrets of Sulphur Springs, which is the final bit of it's like the final interview. It's you and one or two other people. In this case, it was me and one other woman. And I went to test for it, and he picked the biggest fight of our relationship right before I went to test. And thankfully, I had my training to help me compartmentalize. So I put that over here, and I was able to be a professional in that moment and be a Disney mom. And I remember leaving the testing, and I knew it went well. And just thinking, oh my gosh, the person I've chosen to be my life partner, we're not speaking right now. And I've just had a pinnacle moment in my career happen. I don't feel like I can pick up the phone and call him and tell him, like, what am I doing? So I left him. I served him papers. I got out as quickly as I could. And that was summer of 2019. And I remember calling my sorority big sis. Tana's a Brit. And I said, Tana, I feel like myself again. I can breathe again. I know I made the right decision, but my birthday was coming up in December. And I said, but I really don't want to be sad on my birthday. And I don't know what to do. I feel like it's weird to throw a party. And she said, come to London. It's so fun in December. We'll go to a bunch of parties. I'll throw a dinner for you, yada, yada, yada. And the night before my birthday, she took me to a party where I've met my now husband, who is the person that I was always meant to be with.
Again, you had this supporter in your life, and those supporters come at the right time, don't they? They show up at the right time.
And saying yes, and saying yes, because I think that some people, and I'm guilty of this too, but some people get so stuck in a certain pattern or in a certain way of doing life. And instead I was like, you know what? And I booked a miles ticket that night. I was like, I have enough points. I'll go to London. Sure. And I was just like, why not? What do I have to lose? What do I have to lose?
And look at what you gained, because this dovetails right into where we are today. As you alluded, you have a new husband. You guys have businesses together. Can't wait to hear about those. And the song that you all pick. Okay, so the artist name is Ludovico Iannati. And what is this? How do you say the song name? Because I wasn't familiar with it, but I love this being on discography on Spotify.
Look, I don't speak Italian. Nuvole Bianche, maybe.
Nuvole Bianche.
Beautiful song. I was listening to it to prepare for the podcast when I was picking my songs, and I immediately started crying. Ludovico, I always thought it was Iannati, but I think it's Iannati. Ludovico is just this incredibly emotional composer. He now scores a lot of films and maybe television, but I know for sure films. And I've seen him live a couple of times. He is in touch with source. God plays through him for sure. And my husband and I, when we met at that party, we drunkenly, sorry, Mom, bonded over Ludovico. And I walked down the aisle to Ludovico. We had one violinist who learned a few of his songs for our wedding. This song brings me into the present.
Your lesson in many ways is really full circle. And you're really present in your life. You bet on yourself. Joy is a big part of this stage of your life. And we alluded to in the beginning, writer's strike, 8 months, you got to reinvent yourself, but you have so many tools in the toolkit. So your husband has a business. Tell us a little bit about that. You start helping with that. You start your own businesses. You just are finding joy in different phases. You're not just one thing. And that's what I like about No Boxes. You can't be boxed. You're a lot of things. But what you bring to all of them is uniquely, you're going to bring that type A personality, that hustle. You're going to learn, you're going to know the craft, whatever it is, really well. But you also have such a creative side to you that you're going to bring the creativeness to it that makes it a little bit different than the person next to you. And joy. You've said it lots of times. If it's not bringing you joy, you're just not going to do it. And that's why I think you're so successful, because you
Oh.
have all of that in your toolkit. So first of all, I want to hear about the business with hubby, but I secretly can't wait to talk about the purses, because Black purses a lot. And I can't wait to get mine.
I can't wait to send it to you. So I know that one of the lessons was the person you choose to marry is the most important decision of your adult life. And I remember hearing that growing up, or hearing that in my early 20s and just thinking, okay. But they were right, because I've married both. I've married somebody who was detrimental to my life, and now I have married somebody who completely expands every part of my life. And having a true cheerleader in your corner, me for him and him for me, is better than anything that you could possibly have as a leg up in the world. And Nick Campbell is my husband, and he is an art advisor. He's a Brit. He's had his own art advisory business for 15 years. So and he's a touch younger than me. So he started that when he was 23, which not a lot of 23-year-old people in the world starting their own art advisory business, but he has drive and he believes in himself. And in those 15 years, he's learned a lot as an entrepreneur. And I think where Nick and my mom are very similar is that both of them think that I can do anything. They truly believe that. You can hear that from your mom and think, okay, mom. But to hear that from your husband and go, all right, yeah, you're right. Why not? Let me try it. And to have that support has led me down the path to doing a few things that felt out of my comfort zone. But then once I started doing them, I thought, oh, yeah, I do have the skills for this. And I can excel at this, even though I didn't go to business school, or even though I didn't have a traditional job in my 20s or my 30s. And now starting this handbag line has been such a new fun chapter of life. And that all came from, it was my idea and it had been incubating for probably 15 years. But it was Nick's love and encouragement that allowed me the fertile soil to actually grow this business. So with Nick's businesses, we have his art advisory, and then he started a sister company called Campbell Art Collective that's almost 3 years old. And that is what I have dubbed grown-up field trips in the art world, usually because we have a bartender. That's why they're grown up. And then at least once a month, sometimes twice a month in Austin. And now we've expanded to Houston. We take a great group of people. All of them have now become dear friends to do different art related things. Either we're doing an artist studio visit with the artists themselves in their studio, and Nick has a Q&A with them talking about their practice, or we'll go and see a museum show before it's open to the public, or a gallery show before it's open to the public, or a private collector's home. We have a bunch of art on our walls, but some very mega collectors have opened up their homes to us, and Nick then talks to them about their collecting and how they got on that journey and what the through line is in their collection, et cetera, et cetera. And then recently we started another business together called Bite, which stands for Be in the Experience. And as Nick says, when you shake the head of an artist, what dinner party falls out? And that's what these dinners are. I created an intake form for the artists that begins with, when you as an artist are in your creative flow, where do you feel the most in that flow? Is it your studio? Is it your childhood home? Is it your back garden? Where is it? And that determines the place for where we have the dinner. And then we go into the food and the music and the dress code, and every single aspect is the artist is the creative maestro of the evening. And then we execute on that and we curate. This is not open to the public. It is a ticketed event, but we curate the guest list of who is invited to participate in these dinners. And it is a really interesting experience. And Nick very rightly has, I guess, honed in on the fact that because of AI, humans are craving experiences. They're craving in-person interaction. They're craving not being on a screen, not being on a phone, but having these really interesting interactions we're facilitating that with these dinners. And the art world is shifting so much right now. So art fairs are closing, galleries are closing. The status norm of how the art world operates is not smooth sailing right now. So this dinner series allows for a different, intimate way for collectors to connect with artists and vice versa. So that's been really fun. And then, of course, the bags. And this one's your bag that I have in my hands. So these stemmed from this idea that I had about 15 years ago, where I wanted to take old Broadway backdrops and old ballet backdrops and cut them into an envelope bag. And I wanted the inside flap to say what production that backdrop was a part of. And then a percentage of the proceeds would go towards public school arts funding, because I would not be an actor without my public school senior musical. And I believe that funding for that is cut everywhere. So that was how I wanted to give back to what gave me my life. And it was proving difficult to find the backdrops and to source them on a regular basis. And so Nick came into my life. All these incredible contemporary artists came into my life. A lot of them have become my friends. And I just thought, oh, maybe I can pivot and do this idea with them. And so there's still an upcycling factor, which I think is really important. I'm very anti-fast fashion. I love buying secondhand, and I don't throw anything out. Future generations will be thankful for people who are not a part of that problem. And the upcycling part of this is I take drop cloths that artists have used in their practice to collect the paint. Every artist needs it on the floor. Every painter needs it on the floor to collect their paint. Otherwise, their floor would be ruined. And then every artist has a certain color scheme, and every artist has a certain feel and saturation to their work. So every single envelope bag is going to feel different depending on the artist and their color palette and what their practice is. But then every single bag itself is going to be different, because there's nothing repeating. They're all their own unique piece, which I love too, because I think I love a good handbag, but handbags these days are feeling a little same.
It's just so unique. So it's basically like I have a purse I'm carrying around a piece of art in my handbag.
You are carrying wearable art. So on the inside of this flap, so it's a piece of painted canvas, then there's a second layer of canvas, and then there's a layer of linen on the interior. And on the linen, I've taken a branding iron with my married signature, so Kelly Campbell, and these are called Kelly Campbell Collection. And then what I'm having the artist do is sign their signature here. So you have a signed piece of art that you're wearing. And then 20% goes to the artist and 5% goes to a nonprofit of their choosing. So still in the realm of what I wanted to do with the backdrops, but.
And we'll get the link and stuff. We'll put it in the show notes so that listeners can come find the bags and support them. I think they're beautiful. And then I love the story and the message behind them. I love that this is yet another example. Just to be clear for my listeners, you never made, sewn anything like this. It's not like you grew up making bags or something like that. You had to figure out how to do it. You went to a seamstress and talked to her for hours about how to put it together. Like, you attacked it. It goes back to Kelly on the golf team. Kelly on the golf team.
I think it's not being afraid of being a beginner. And look, this isn't, I haven't put $50,000 into this. I've bootstrapped this, and I just thought, if I make a few bags and nobody wants them, then I'll have a couple great bags. What's the downside of that?
I hear you, but Kelly, it's one of those things that you talked about this a couple of times in this podcast. It's one of those things where I like to say your steps are ordered. It's supposed to be something you do, and it's supposed to be something that, is successful. It just is. And so I think it's great to be like, oh, if it doesn't work out, but that's not who Kelly is, and that's just not how this works.
Thankfully, it's going very well so far. So hopefully it continues. But I am somebody who believes in riding the wave, whatever that wave is.
Yeah.
Although this idea has been there for over a decade, the wave I could see it. I could see it like out in the distance, but it wasn't coming in. And then all of a sudden it rushed in. And I was like, okay, we're doing this wave now. Sure.
You've got a busy schedule because you're also a realtor. So you're actually showing some homes.
Oh
So
my
we're
gosh.
gonna let
Thanks
you
for
go.
looking at the time.
Right.
Yes.
I'm looking at the time. You've got to go. So we gotta sum this up. We gotta wrap this up. I always like to end with a couple of things. How can my listeners follow you and support you? And then I always ask for, what are you listening to today that just makes you happy? When you get in the car and you're on your way to show this house, what song just puts a smile on your face?
Okay. Y'all can find me on the Instagram at Kelly Frye, KELLYFRYE. And Kelly Campbell Collection is the name of the bags, which is my website name and my Instagram name as well. And my husband, if anybody out there needs an art advisor, he's great. Campbell Art Advisory. Okay, this is my go-to song. It's my girlfriend, Elizabeth Abrams is her name, but her artist name is Liz, all caps, Liz. And this song is Super Duper Nova. And I was trying to find other songs that were maybe more meaningful, but this is my hype me up song. If I'm out for a run and it's a very slow 3-mile run and I need to pick up my pace, I'm like, okay, got to go to Super Duper Nova.
I'm
Gotta
playing
pull that song out.
I'm playing that song when we get off because I wasn't familiar with it, but I see it right here. I'm playing.
It's very poppy. It's fun.
It's a very poppy.
She's
and
a great
song.
singer. She's great and a great writer.
I love that. Kelly, let's wrap up again for our listeners. Your songs, your lessons have been so inspirational. First up, we had Changes by David Bowie. Next, you picked High Hopes by Panic at the Disco, followed by Hook by Blues Traveler. We then go to Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine. And we add your current song by Ludovico Einaudi. And we think it's pronounced Nuvole Bianche, but I don't know if I'm butchering
Just
it.
play the song. It's a great song.
Play it. And our hype song is Super Duper Nova by Liz. Kelly, it's been so much fun getting to know you, getting to spend some time with you. Thank you for showing us really the epitome of no boxes, because you do a little bit of it all. And we're rooting for you in this next season of life. We know you're going to have joy. So we're rooting for you both with your bag line and you and your husband and your artist advisory and the dinners. But also, we still want to see you on the big screen. So absolutely can't wait to support your next project as well. And I'll also
Shannon.
follow what you wear. Now that I know what that acronym stands for, because I hadn't.
Get ready with me. This is a new thing that I'm doing, by the way. But it's a great way to talk about the bags.
I love it.
I do finding fun things on the real and putting them together.
I love it. I'm going to start following Get Ready With Me. I might try to copy you and just take videos of getting ready. Why not?
I did a Get Ready With Me for this podcast. I'm going to post it.
Oh,
I'm going
to.
to.
And then I'll say how inspired I am to figure that out.
Do it. You got to get ready with me with your glasses.
Yeah. Well, you helped me pick these glasses. Just so you know, listeners, she helped me pick the glasses that I'm wearing today.
Gorgeous.
I love it. Kelly, so much fun talking and chatting with you. Thank you for sharing your lessons. Thank you for being so transparent and open about your journey. We're rooting for you. And thank you for joining No Boxes, Just Verses.
Thank you, Shannon. Loved it.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to No Boxes, Just Verses. And if this episode moved y'all, please share it, rate us, follow the show on your favorite platform, and we can keep building our leadership playlists together. So you can find me, guys, on Instagram as Shannon Nash1 and No Boxes, Just Verses on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Shannon Nash ESQ CPA. You can also find No Boxes, Just Verses on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at noboxesjustverses.com. Finally, don't forget to check out the show notes. The show notes are super important because this is where the playlists will live. You will be able to get these playlists on Apple and Spotify. You'll also be able to follow up and see how to reach out to the guests, follow them and support them. Until next time, I need you to stay unboxed. You come for the stories, but you stay for the playlists. I'm Shannon Nash, and I'm out.
No boxes, just verses. Listen to the sound. No boxes, just verses. We not playing around.